Ever find yourself stuck in a conversation about cars? Wishing you could just roll down the window and drive away.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Eh,
Especially if you're not a car person.
But hey, even if you're not rebuilding engines in your spare time, knowing some car lingo can actually be pretty useful
Mm,
and fun, too.
absolutely. I mean, cars are such a huge part of culture, right? Movies, music, even everyday conversations.
Exactly. So to help us all navigate the world of car talk, we're taking a deep dive into an episode from a cool little podcast called The Speakeasy. They did a whole episode about car vocabulary.
Oh, the speakeasy. Yeah, I've heard of that one. They always have some pretty interesting topics.
Right, so they break down car vocab in a way that even someone who's never changed a tire can understand.
Yeah.
Which is great because, let's be honest, sometimes those technical terms can feel like a whole other language.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's kind of like learning anatomy. Before you can understand how the body works, you got to know what all the parts are called.
Perfect analogy. So let's start with the basics. What are some of those essential car parts that everyone should know?
Well, according to the speakeasy, the steering wheel, brakes, and accelerator, or gas pedal, are a good place to start. Pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, those are the ones even I know. But what about something like the clutch?
Ah, the clutch. Now that one's interesting. It's that extra pedal you find in cars with manual transmissions, so not everyone's going to be familiar with that one.
Okay, so for those of us who've only ever driven automatics, what does the clutch actually do?
Basically, it's what allows you to change gears smoothly. You press it in to disengage the engine from the wheels and then shift gears. It gives you a lot more control over the car.
Oh, I see. It's like taking control of the gears yourself instead of letting the car do it automatically. Kind of cool. I've always felt a little intimidated by manual cars.
Yeah, they can be a little tricky to get used to at first, but some people swear by them. They say it's a much more engaging driving experience.
Interesting. So once you've mastered the clutch and all the other essential parts, I guess the next step is figuring out what kind of car you want to drive.
Right, and there's so many different types to choose from. It's like a whole ecosystem.
The Speakeasy actually compares car types to animals, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, it's a great way to think about it. Like sedans, those are your classic family cars. They're like the workhorses of the car world. Reliable, practical, gets you from point A to point B.
Right, your typical four-door with a separate trunk. Then you've got your SUVs, which are more like the adventurers, right?
Totally. SUVs are built for, well, just about anything. Hauling cargo, going off-road, tackling tough terrain. Families love them.
Yeah, they seem to be everywhere these days. And then there's the convertibles,
Yeah.
the sports cars of the group.
Oh, yeah. Convertibles are all about style and fun. Top down, wind in your hair, cruising along the coast. Definitely a head turner.
Okay, so we've got sedans, SUVs, convertibles. What else is there?
Oh, we can't forget about hatchbacks. They're kind of like the chameleons of the car world. Compact and versatile, with a rear door that swings up for easy access.
Hatchbacks, those are great for city driving. Easy to park and maneuver in tight spaces.
Exactly. It's amazing how each car type really does have its own niche, just like animals in different habitats.
It makes you wonder if your personality type matches your car type. Speaking of actions, there are certain things you do with a car, no matter what kind you drive. And those actions have their own specific verbs, like drive is the most obvious one.
Yeah, but even driving can mean different things depending on the context, right? You can drive fast, drive slow, drive cautiously. It's not just about physically operating the car, it's also about how you do it.
True. And then you've got parking, which can be a whole art form in itself.
Oh, yeah, parallel parking especially. That can be a real test of your skills.
And don't forget about accelerating and braking. Those are pretty essential for, not crashing.
And let's not forget reversing. Sometimes you just got to admit you missed that turn and back up.
Ugh, reversing can be stressful. You got to be so careful. But yeah, those are some of the basic car actions that come up all the time.
And you know what? The Speakeasy actually has a fun segment where they challenge listeners to guess the vocabulary word based on different scenarios. Like imagine, you need to slow down quickly because there's a squirrel in the road. What word would you use?
Brake. I definitely hit the brakes for a squirrel.
Exactly. It's a fun way to learn and remember those car action verbs.
It really makes you think about the words in a different way. And speaking of making you think, I learned something really surprising from the Speakeasy. Do you know that the first car was actually slower than a bicycle?
Wait, really? Slower than a bicycle?
Yeah. Apparently, it could only go about 10 miles per hour. Can you imagine?
Wow, that's wild. I mean, it makes sense considering those early cars were pretty rudimentary, basically motorized carriages. But still, it's incredible to think about how far we've come in terms of automotive technology.
Right, from 10 miles per hour to self-driving cars. It's mind-blowing.
It makes you wonder what car vocabulary will be like in the future. Will we even need to know the words for steering wheel or accelerator when cars can drive themselves?
That's a good question. Maybe there will be a whole new set of terms to describe how we interact with self-driving cars.
Like engage autopilot or select destination, who knows? It's pretty exciting to think about the future of language and technology, especially when it comes to something as universal as cars.
Definitely. And even if the vocabulary changes, the basic concepts will probably still be relevant. We'll always need to get from point A to point B, even if we're not the ones behind the wheel.
Exactly. So whether you're a seasoned car enthusiast or just starting to learn about the automotive world, it's clear that car vocabulary is an important part of our language and culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So next time you find yourself in a conversation about cars, remember those essential parts, the different types, those action verbs, and maybe even that fun fact about the first car being slower than a bicycle. You'll be cruising through those conversations in no time.
And who knows, maybe you'll even spark some interesting discussions about the future of cars and how we'll talk about them.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but keep those engines revving and those conversations flowing.
See ya.
Bye.